Bitcoin offers property rights that mankind has never seen before. That was a great sales pitch for America. Come to America, you can own your own land. But here's the caveat. You got to come to America. You have to leave your nation, sail across an ocean, probably die on the way back then when there were sailboats and stuff. But if you can get here, you can own your own land. You had really strong property rights here in America. All right, fast forward to where we are today. I mean, between the banks, between the governments, between the taxing authorities, between you name it, your property rights have been weakened severely since the beginning of the United States of America. All I'm saying is that Bitcoin is very challenging to take by force. Bitcoin can be sent across space and time at the speed of light on the other side of the planet in minutes. So one thing about your gold is if you get tipped off, hey, tomorrow night they're going to raid your house and they're going to take all your gold. And it could be the police, it could be the mafia, it could be the gang, could be your rival, could be your family, who knows? They're coming for the gold. This is a problem with physical property, is it can be stolen, it can be taxed, it can be taken from you. And yes, you could say, look, I worked for this, I built all those chairs, lived within my means, pinched pennies, saved, whatever. You've accumulated this gold. Does anybody have rights to that gold?
The system is broken. Inflation is robbing your wealth. Banks control your money. But what if there was a way out? Bitcoin isn't just an asset, it's a revolution, a decentralized, unstoppable financial system built for the people, by the people. This is the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, your front row seat to the future of money. No hype, no noise, just real Bitcoin insights from the industry's top voices. Bitcoin isn't the future, it's happening now. And if you're not paying attention, you're already behind. Don't just watch from the sidelines. Be part of the Bitcoin revolution. Subscribe now to the Daily Bitcoin Podcast.
All right, Craig LeBlanc here again with the Daily Bitcoin Podcast. Sorry for being late. I had some technical issues, resetting everything that just are for the course when you're creating live content. All right, so I have a great topic for y'all tonight. Going to keep it kind of short, but property rights. What does that mean when it comes to Bitcoin? And why is that important? And why should you be concerned about having property rights? Well, I mean, maybe we can start by asking, what is property? What is yours? Let's just start with the basics. Are these yours? Are your hands yours? And are your thoughts yours? Or do they belong to anybody? Should you allow someone to control your thoughts? Should you allow someone to control your hands without your consent? I'm not saying that you can't go to work for an employer that gives you money, and in exchange for that money, you work with your hands, you work with your mind, and you work on their behalf, but you're compensated for it. But now the question remains is a thought really yours? Is your creativity yours? Can someone lay claim to your thoughts? So I would think that that's pretty simple, that you should be able to say, yeah, my thoughts are my own. And I'm not talking about anyone that's, being manipulated and controlled, just in a general sense. Are your thoughts yours? If you're asked to think about a beautiful day, what's your favorite version of that? Maybe your favorite vacation, or create for me a really nice room like you decorate it. That's coming from your mind. It's originating from your mind. I would say this is yours. It's pretty simple. And I would say that that's the beginning of property. The beginning of property is ownership. Can you own your own thoughts? Are they yours? Are there no one else's? So we'll start there. And I would say, yes, your thoughts are your own. That's at least my belief in it. Hold on, let me shut one of these things down here. Quit. Okay. So yeah, your thoughts are your own. All right. Now, how about your actions? Like, as in the sweat of your brow, your labor, if I choose to build um, a fence, or if I choose to build, a structure, did I build that? Is it my structure? Did I pay for the material? Can I own what I create? Or let's just say you come up with a little invention in your garage, you're tinkering around and you invent something that's maybe can be sold, or that's maybe a great idea. Is that your invention? And so we get into what is mine and what is my property. Um, Okay, so why is this important when it comes to, property rights? And when I say property rights, what are we talking about here? Um, Hold on, I got to shut down another thing. Music, quit. Sorry. Live performance here. Anything else want to disturb me? Okay, I think we're good. Um, Property rights is important when it comes to Bitcoiners because property rights, I'm just going to say it up front, and then I'll show you how I got there. Bitcoin offers property rights that mankind has never seen before. Not just property rights that you have the right, this piece of paper, this document, this government law, or this law passed by a group of people says you have the right to property. I'm talking about what's defendable. Okay. Um, and property rights in Bitcoin are the most defendable property rights we've ever had because it comes down to Bitcoin is language, Bitcoin is code. You can store Bitcoin in 12 words stored in your mind. If you can memorize 12 words, then you can store infinite wealth in your mind in the form of a Bitcoin seed phrase. And so it's now somebody might pass a law that says you're not allowed to have those 12 words, but can they come get those 12 words out of your head? Now, I'm not talking about 5 wrench attack. I mean, how do they even know that you've got 12 words in your head and that those 12 words store massive wealth inside of it? So we're talking about defendable property rights here. Now, let's go back to the foundation of our great nation, the United States of America. This was a time period where we didn't really have property rights as a species, that typically the average man, the land belonged to the kings and queens and the people of power, and everyone else was subject to those powers. But then along comes America, where we're like, hey, we have the right to property, you have the right to own property. There were no taxes. You just came here and we were self-governed. There was no king. There was no one that owned all the property and you just got to work the land. You could own the land. This was a massive sales pitch. This was a massive recruiting statement for the United States of America. Come to America where a man can own his own land and no one can tell him what to do on it. And so this was a massive draw for people who had lived under tyrannical rule throughout the 1800s is now there was a promise that you make it to America, you can own your own land and no king can kick you off of it, kind of thing. So this was huge. This like ripped through the whole world of this notion that a man, a peasant, anyone that can just lay stake to a piece of land, especially if you go out west, if you just set up and build your home on it, it's yours. Okay. And property rights were a big component in America. Now I know over time this has gotten eroded to where now you have property tax, you have local tax, you have state tax, you have federal tax, you have all types of people that have eroded our property rights down to almost nothing, right? But originally, that was a great sales pitch for America. Come to America, you can own your own land. But here's the caveat. You got to come to America. You have to leave your nation, sail across an ocean, probably die on the way back then when there was sailboats and stuff. But if you can get here, you can own your own land. You had really strong property rights here in America. All right, fast forward to where we are today. I mean, between the banks, between the governments, between the taxing authorities, between you name it, your property rights have been weakened severely since the beginning of the United States of America. Along comes Bitcoin. You can store. Okay, so let's talk about other things besides land. You consider that property. Let's just talk about things of value, right? So now you're trying to store value long term. You're trying to store value long term. Let's just say you run a little shop, a little donut shop or something, and you're making more than you can spend, more than you need, and so now you have what's called a savings. So you have excess capital, you have excess donuts, right? You make too many donuts. Let's say your capacity is more than what you can sell, right? So um, let's just say we can trade this. So let's just say you make chairs, all right, and so you can trade this for some type of thing that you could spend later. So let's say gold is something that you've exchanged for your chairs, and you've spent all the gold that you need to survive that month, to buy more wood for chairs, to whatever for food, and you've got gold left over. So now you start accumulating wealth in the form of gold. Okay. So you've accumulated wealth, and let's just say after a whole year, you've got 2 or 3 months worth of stockpile of gold that you could just literally stop everything and you could live for 2 or 3 months, right? And let's say you go on for a decade, and before you know it, you got 2 or 3 years worth of gold saved up. But there's an issue is that gold can be taken from you by force. It's like, everybody knows what gold is, gold coins, but someone, a thief could come in, take your gold. So this is a problem with physical property is it can be stolen, it can be taxed, it can be taken from you. And yes, you could say, look, I worked for this. I built all those chairs, lived within my means, pinched pennies, saved, whatever. You've accumulated this gold. Does anybody have rights to that gold? Does anyone else, if they didn't contribute, let's just say some state or government far away just says, well, you know what, we think we think we deserve some of that gold, or it's only right that you share that gold with everybody else. And okay, so maybe you have different beliefs on what that is, but with Bitcoin, um how do you enforce taking that gold? Now, I'm not saying or recommending that anybody break any laws or anything. All I'm saying is that Bitcoin is very challenging to take by force. Um, Bitcoin can be sent across space and time at the speed of light on the other side of the planet in minutes. So one thing about your gold is if you get tipped off, hey, tomorrow night they're going to raid your house and they're going to take all your gold, and it could be the police, it could be the mafia, it could be the gang, could be your rival, could be your family, who knows? They're coming for the gold. What do you do? Okay, maybe if it's light enough, if it fits in a bag, then you could just take it and run. Okay, or you could go hide it, or you could give it to somebody for safekeeping, kind of thing. Um, but what if it's like more than you can carry? What if it's a lot of gold and it's super heavy? If it's like 1,000 pounds of gold, now maybe that's a lot, but I'm just saying. Um, and then if somebody sees you walking around with this big bag of gold, well, now you've got a new attack vector, just on the street, you could get robbed, right? And so what Bitcoin does is it digitizes your wealth. There's no way to really look at a hardware wallet or look at 12 words and really know what's in there. So let's say I have a cold card and I've got two cold cards. They're identical. One holds 100 Bitcoin, one holds $100 worth of Bitcoin. So one owns, let's say, 10 sats, and the other one holds 100 Bitcoin or 1 Bitcoin, whatever. Looking at the two exteriorly, there's no way to tell that there's even been Bitcoin uploaded, much less that one has more than the other. So you can see how it really protects just how much is in there, right? That's one way, just looking at it from the outside. It's also easy to hold, and it can be zipped across to another wallet that's stored somewhere else to another person 24/7 within minutes. You can press send, and there goes all your wealth. There goes all your Bitcoin. So that when the thieves show up, I don't have any. I've sent it away. I've burned it, whatever. If you don't want somebody to get it, it won't be stolen. So hold on, I might have some. Captain Mo, I love it. Bitcoin is the first asset where you have a Leo title that cannot be taken from you. Yes, you own your house. In quotes, I'm just reading with Captain Mo said. You rent your house whether you own or rent, property tax is payment to federal banking overlords. Yeah. So a lot of Bitcoiners talk about how Bitcoin is pristine property that for two things. Number one, Mother Nature cannot erode uh, the value of the Bitcoin. Okay. Whereas Mother Nature can rip apart your roof, your paint job. Termites can come in and rip it down. Floods, fires, hurricanes. So there's a lot of attack vectors to what we would consider property. It is yours, but Mother Nature doesn't care. Mother Nature can rip your property apart, rip it out of your hands, destroy it, squash it, soak it with stuff, burn it, right? So outside of man, maybe stealing it, taking it, laying claim to it, just having a stronger force of men to take the weaker man's property. Bitcoin, on the other hand, time does not really make it lose its luster. One Bitcoin will always equal one Bitcoin, will always equal one Bitcoin. So a lot of times you hear Bitcoiners say Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. It's some like mathematical science. There is certainty. One Bitcoin is not really more value. There's no such thing as a special Bitcoin. When you show up to market with a Bitcoin, it's just like the other Bitcoins on the marketplace. So now I'm not talking about all the KYC and stuff, but anyway, you get what I'm saying. So about this property rights stuff, before you had to come to America to get these property rights. Well, now you don't even have to leave your country. You can actually stay in your poor nation. Let's say that's where you grew up. You're multi-generational. I really don't want to leave this beautiful nation, this beautiful jungle, this beautiful beach in a third world country, but it's just my home. And I don't want to have to leave to get these property rights. Well, no longer. You can have the best property rights that's ever been given to mankind from exactly where you are. You can, in a way, join a digital nation state that has its own currency, that has a currency governed by rules, not by rulers, engineered to protect us all in the very same way. So just because you have 1,000 Bitcoin doesn't mean you get special rights. If you have a fraction of a Bitcoin, you got the same rights as a guy that has 1,000 Bitcoin or 10,000 Bitcoin. Same property rights for everybody. You could still have same access to the market. When you put a Bitcoin up for sale, they don't say, well, who's selling it? Well, they get a little premium on it. No, if a guy in Africa in a very poor nation puts up his Bitcoin for sale, it looks like everybody else's Bitcoin. So if you're selling, it's on the open market. If you're buying, you pay the same price as everybody else. Everybody else has to get in line. So just because some rich banker, billionaire, hedge fund manager decides we're going to get into Bitcoin, they don't get special treatment. Let me repeat that. No matter who you are, get in line and buy Bitcoin like the rest of us. You're going to pay the same fees we pay to the miners to verify your transactions. You're going to get the same rights that all of us get. Let's say you're late to Bitcoin, if there is such a thing. The guys that have been there forever, they don't get special rights. Let's say you're a coder that builds on Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't treat you specially. Let's say the founder of Bitcoin, Satoshi himself, comes here tomorrow and says, I'm buying more Bitcoin. Sorry, you get the same treatment as all of us. Even Satoshi himself did not issue himself a pre-mine. Okay. Most of these other projects that were pre-mined, which means the founders just gave themselves token without having to work for, by providing compute, by providing electricity. He mined Satoshi. He even had to mine his own Bitcoin. And so with that being said, the right to own your own property. And with this property, with Bitcoin and your labor through your hands, your creativity, you can generate that currency to something that cannot be stolen, that cannot be manipulated. And you can hope Bitcoin will always be worth a Bitcoin. Even in the future, it's still going to be worth one Bitcoin. Work real hard, you save, you pinch, and maybe you put it into gold and somebody steals the gold, or it gets burned down. And so all your hard work that you put into some type of saving, inject that power into the future. Remember, money is power. And you, what I mean by that? Well, if you get into a pinch and let's say a loved one to get medical treatment and they're broke, but you're like, you know what? I have this gold in the form of this Bitcoin, in the form of this cash, and I can deploy, I can bear the medicine and the doctors and the facility to actually person, right? And it's just an example, right? But now you could use it for anything. You could use it for war. You could use it for a business idea, but you can take that power that's been stored over time and you can unleash it in whatever capacity you want, whenever you want. The only problem is a lot of stored energy somehow has taxes. It has, like, gold is constantly expanding by 2% a year, I think is what the gold miners, with the, ever been to a gold mine where they dig big holes into the ground and they sift out the gold? Well, those guys, that whole industry is adding 2% new supply to the gold, overall gold market. And so, there's not a fixed supply of gold. Whereas with Bitcoin, there's a fixed supply. And if you can always assure yourself that Bitcoin's only going to get more rare because people are constantly losing Bitcoin. If you lose the keys to your Bitcoin, you're not getting them back. There's no way to guess the words, just by sheer brute force. And so anyway, that was something that attracted me to Bitcoin a long time ago. Was just the property rights, because I've always felt like we just didn't have strong property rights like we were promised in the early days, of course, long before any of our time. But that was such a brilliant idea of our founders of the United States of America to say, a man can own a piece of land. You can come here, you own the land. We're not a nation of rulers. We're a nation of rules. And I think this concept was perfected in Bitcoin, that we can all own digital property and there's no special treatment to founders or people who own more Bitcoin or the wealthy, that everyone's treated the same. Michael Saylor himself could show up and buy a Bitcoin. He's going to pay the same price as some poor guy that this is everything he's got. Even if he's got $1,000, when Michael Saylor plops $1,000 on there, it's treated the same. The network treats it the same. It's not his preferential treatment. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. The property's pristine. It spins in the future the same way. And if you want to buy Bitcoin, you don't have to worry about all these. Like today, governments have special rights. People have rules for thee, but not for me. And this is how a lot of scattered throughout human history, this is how people have been ruled throughout most of I would say all of man's history, that there were always special rules for the rule makers. There were special treatment for people that have, influence and power. But in Bitcoin, nope, get in line with everybody else. If you really want a lot of Bitcoin, you better give a lot of energy to it. So that means you have to provide a lot of capital. So you're going to have to trade a ton of capital for Bitcoin. If you want Bitcoin, you trade a ton of capital for it. That's the only way to get more Bitcoin. So anyway, that was my thought for the night. Don't have a full hour for y'all, but we got a good week coming up where we talk about Bitcoin. Appreciate all of my Parks and Rec people that are now starting to show up a little bit more to the Daily Bitcoin podcast. And I also want to thank Morgan out there, because he's going to do the Thursday show with me. So I really enjoy his time out there and what he has to say. I love how he's talking about Michael Saylor, MicroStrategies, and a lot of the work that they're doing. But I've also got some special guests coming up that we're going to start. And I appreciate Chris for making this little promo for us. So this is Craig LeBlanc, the doorman, here Sunday through Thursday with the Daily Bitcoin podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll see y'all again here tomorrow. Y'all have a great night, and looking forward to an awesome week coming up. Love you guys. Bye.
Welcome to the Daily Bitcoin podcast, where knowledge meets financial freedom. We're here to break down the world of Bitcoin. No fluff, no hype, just real talk about how this digital asset is reshaping the future of money. Inflation is stealing your purchasing power, but what if there was a way to fight back? Enter Bitcoin, the digital currency that empowers you to take control of your wealth. Ever wondered why your money doesn't stretch as far as it used to? At the Daily Bitcoin podcast, we educate, inform, and inspire. From expert interviews to breaking news, we bring you everything you need to stay ahead in the Bitcoin community. Market updates, expert insights, real-world use cases, and practical tips to navigate the Bitcoin economy. So whether you're a seasoned Bitcoin investor or just getting started, this is your daily dose of Bitcoin wisdom. Don't miss out. Subscribe now, hit that bell icon, and let's break free from the chains of inflation, one Bitcoin at a time. The Daily Bitcoin Podcast, your gateway to financial freedom.